The treaty negotiations had dragged on for 6 hours, and Amy was bored out of her mind. She sat in the corner of the observation room, swinging her legs back and forth while watching her mother talk with the tall reptilian aliens through the glass. Badger lay curled up next to her feet, looking like he was asleep. He always looked like he was asleep. Amy knew the rules. Stay in the observation room. Don't touch anything. Don't bother the diplomats. But the rules never said anything about exploring just a little bit. The door wasn't locked, and the hallway outside looked way more interesting than this boring room. She picked up Badger, who made a small huffing sound but didn't protest. He never did. Amy had found him in a rescue center 2 years ago when her anxiety got really bad. The doctor said she needed something to help her feel safe. Most kids got dogs or cats. Amy got Badger, and he was perfect. The hallway was long and shiny, with weird symbols on the walls that probably meant something important. Amy walked slowly, looking at everything. Badger waddled beside her now, his claws making tiny clicking sounds on the floor. Other aliens passed by, giving her strange looks, but saying nothing. She heard voices ahead and followed the sound. Big mistake. Amy pushed through a door and suddenly found herself in a huge room filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. They sat in curved rows facing a central platform where her mother stood with several other humans and a group of the reptilian aliens. Everyone turned to look at her. Amy, her mother's voice cracked with panic. One of the tall reptilians stepped forward. He wore fancy robes covered in red and gold patterns, and his scales shimmered under the lights. This had to be someone important. Chancellor something, Amy remembered. The one her mom had been trying to impress all week. Amy felt her cheeks burn red. She messed up. Really messed up. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean to interrupt. She turned to leave, but her shoe caught on the smooth floor. Amy stumbled forward, arms windmilling, and crashed right into the Chancellor. His drink, a bright purple liquid in a fancy glass, splashed all over his robes. The entire room went silent. The Chancellor looked down at his ruined clothes, then at Amy. His eyes narrowed into slits, and his lips pulled back to show rows of sharp teeth. He raised his hand high in the air, clawed fingers spread wide. Amy froze. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then Badger was there. The honey badger had been several feet away, looking half asleep as usual. But now he stood between Amy and the Chancellor, positioned perfectly to block any strike. He didn't growl, didn't hiss, didn't make any sound at all. He just stood there, completely still, staring up at the alien with dark, unblinking eyes. The Chancellor's hand stopped mid-swing. He stared down at the small creature, and something changed in his expression. The anger drained away, replaced by something Amy had never seen on an alien face before. Fear. Real, genuine fear. The Chancellor took a step back, then another. His scales, which had been a deep crimson color, faded to a pale pink. His hand trembled as he lowered it. Guards, he said, but his voice came out wrong. Shaky. Clear the chamber. Now. Armored aliens rushed forward, but the Chancellor held up his other hand to stop them. He kept his eyes locked on Badger the whole time. The honey badger hadn't moved, hadn't even blinked. He just stood there, a small furry guardian between Amy and the universe. Everyone out. The Chancellor said again, louder this time. This session is over. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Aliens stood up, gathering their things, casting curious glances at Amy and Badger. Her mother rushed over, grabbing Amy's shoulders. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Rebecca's hands moved over Amy's arms and head, checking for injuries. I'm fine, Mom. Badger protected me. Rebecca looked down at the honey badger, who had finally moved. He waddled back to Amy's side and sat down, looking sleepy again. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just faced down one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy without a single sound. The Chancellor was already leaving through a side door, his guards scrambling to keep up with him. He didn't look back at a small alien, barely reaching Amy's waist, scurried over. He looked like a mouse standing on 2 legs, with big round ears and bright, curious eyes. That was amazing, he whispered. His voice squeaked a little. I'm Peep. I work as a junior aide here. I've never seen Chancellor Dravos back down from anything. Ever. Badger didn't do anything, Amy said, confused. He just stood there. Exactly, Pip replied, his eyes wide. Your friend didn't threaten, didn't attack, just stood there like he knew the Chancellor couldn't hurt him, like he was ready for anything. That's terrifying in a completely different way. Rebecca pulled Amy toward the exit, apologizing to every official they passed. But Amy noticed something strange. The aliens weren't angry. They looked nervous. Some looked scared, all because of Badger. The honey badger trotted alongside them, his thick fur bouncing with each step. When they reached their quarters, he curled up on his favorite cushion and closed his eyes. Amy sat down next to him, running her fingers through his coarse fur. You're a good boy, Badger. The best boy. Across the station, in his private chambers, Chancellor Dravos stood at his window, staring out at the stars. His hand still shook. He pressed a button on his desk. Give me everything we have on Earth animals, he said to his assistant. Every file, every record. I want to know what that creature was. Sir, it was just a small animal, barely the size of— Do it now, Dravos interrupted, and find out what else humans keep as pets. I need to understand what kind of species befriend something like that. He thought about those eyes again, dark and knowing, completely fearless. In 40 years of military service, he'd never felt like prey before today. The Chancellor had a feeling he was about to learn something very important about humanity, something that would change everything. Dravos couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that creature staring up at him. Small, silent, absolutely unafraid. He'd faced enemy warships without flinching, fought in hand-to-hand combat against species twice his size, and ordered the destruction of entire rebel fleets. But a furry animal the size of his forearm had made him feel genuine terror. He sat at his desk, surrounded by holographic displays, each one showing different files about Earth. His assistant, a nervous young officer named Telk, stood nearby with a datapad. Sir, I've compiled everything we have on the creature. It's called a honey badger, native to Earth's African and Asian continents. Show me, Dravos commanded. The first video made him lean forward. A honey badger attacked a creature called a lion, something 10 times its size with massive claws and teeth. The badger didn't run, didn't hide. It charged straight at the predator, bit on the face, and the lion retreated. The lion ran away. Next video, Dravos said quietly. This one showed a honey badger raiding a beehive. Thousands of stinging insects swarmed around it, but the badger ignored them completely. It tore into the hive, eating honey while bees covered its entire body. The pain meant nothing. More videos followed. Honey badgers fighting cobras and winning. Honey badgers escaping from reinforced enclosures by using tools. Honey badgers recovering from bites that would kill most creatures 3 times their size. One video showed a badger taking down a porcupine covered in sharp quills, getting stabbed dozens of times and still winning the fight. Their skin is extremely tough, Telk explained, reading from his notes. Nearly impossible to bite through. They have incredible pain tolerance. They never give up, never retreat, and never show fear. Scientists who study them say honey badgers simply don't understand the concept of backing down. Dravos felt cold. What else do humans keep as companions? Telk pulled up more files. Dogs, sir, descended from wolves. Pack hunters that humans domesticated thousands of years ago. They're fiercely loyal and used for protection, hunting, and emotional support. The videos of dogs were different, but equally disturbing. These creatures worked together like military units, taking down prey much larger than themselves. But then the videos showed them with human children, gentle and protective, letting the younglings pull their ears and climb on them. Cats, Telk continued. Solitary hunters, extremely efficient killers. Humans keep them in their homes. Let them roam freely. The cats choose to stay. They choose. Dravos interrupted. Yes, sir. Cats can survive independently, but prefer to live with humans. They hunt for pleasure, even when well-fed. Some Earth scientists call them perfect predators. More displays appeared. Horses that could crush a human skull with one kick, but allowed humans to ride them into battle. Birds that remembered human faces for years and held grudges. Reptiles that could kill with venom, but lived peacefully in human habitats. "Call General Karvik," Dravos said. "I need military analysis." 20 minutes later, the general arrived, looking irritated at being summoned in the middle of the night. Dravos showed him everything. "You woke me up for this." Karvik growled. "They're just animals, Dravos. The child's pet got lucky." "You were startled. Run a simulation," Dravos replied coldly. "Assume humans breed these honey badgers for combat. Assume they use genetic enhancement. Assume they deploy them as living weapons against our forces." Karvik sighed, but entered the parameters into the tactical computer. His expression changed as the results appeared. "This can't be right," he muttered. "What does it say?" 73% casualty rate for our ground forces. "These things are too small to target effectively, too tough to kill quickly, and too aggressive to intimidate. They'd tear through defensive lines like nothing I've seen." "Now add the dogs," Dravos said. "Add the cats. Add everything humans befriend." The simulation ran again. The results were worse. Much worse. Karvik sat down heavily. "If humans weaponized their own planet's fauna and deployed them strategically, we'd need overwhelming numbers to win. And that's assuming humans don't fight alongside them. But they don't weaponize them," a new voice said. Both officers turned. Dr. Sullen, the station's chief xenobiologist, stood in the doorway. She was an insectoid species with multiple eyes and delicate antennae that twitched constantly. "I've been researching this too," she said, moving closer. "Chancellor, humans don't use these animals as weapons. They keep them as family members. The honey badger with the child is an emotional support animal, given to a vulnerable youngling to help with anxiety." "That makes no sense," Karvik said. "Why give a child one of the most dangerous predators on their planet?" "Because it's also one of the most loyal," Dr. Sullen replied. "Honey badgers bond with their chosen humans. They protect without being asked. That creature didn't attack you, Chancellor. It simply positioned itself between perceived threat and its bonded child. That's what it does. That's what it is." She pulled up more data. "Look at human history. They didn't conquer their world through strength. They formed partnerships. They befriended wolves and created dogs. They convinced cats to share their homes. They earned the trust of horses, birds, even dangerous reptiles. They're not dominators. They're cooperators." Dravos thought about the child, Amy. How she'd touched the honey badger so gently. How the creature had looked ready to die, protecting her, but had also looked completely content at her side. What kind of species earns the loyalty of something that fears nothing, he wondered aloud. "A species that doesn't rely on fear," Dr. Sullen answered. "Humans build relationships with their animals through trust, patience, and genuine affection. The honey badger doesn't serve a child. It loves her." The room fell silent. Finally, Karvik spoke. "So what do we do? If humans can befriend creatures like this naturally, what happens when they encounter other species? Could they do the same with aliens?" "They already are," Dr. Sullen said softly. "I've been watching the footage from the council chamber. The child made friends with Junior Aide Pip within minutes. Humans don't just bond with animals. They bond with everyone." Dravos stood up, his mind made up. "Summon my war council. All senior officers. I'm issuing new orders regarding humanity." "What kind of orders?" Karvik asked. "Protection," Dravos replied. "That child and her companion represents something important. If humans can inspire that level of loyalty from Earth's apex survivors, we need them as allies, not enemies. I'm granting the Child Imperium protection status." Both Karvik and Dr. Sullen stared at him in shock. "Sir," Karvik stammered, "that status has never been given to an outsider. Ever." "Then it's time we started thinking differently," Dravos said. "Because I don't want to face a galaxy where humanity decides we're enemies. Not if their smallest children have guardians like that." Rebecca checked her appearance for the third time, trying to smooth down her hair. The summons had arrived an hour ago, requesting her immediate presence in the council chambers. "No explanation. Just the Imperium seal and a timestamp she'd spent the night apologizing to everyone she could find, sending messages to Human Command explaining how Amy had ruined the treaty negotiations. Now, she was probably going to face formal charges. Maybe deportation. Possibly worse. "Mom, you look fine," Amy said from the couch. Badger was sprawled across her lap, his belly up, while she scratched his thick fur. "You're staying here this time," Rebecca said firmly. "No wounding. No exploding. Promise me." "I promise," Amy replied. Pip had come to visit and was showing her a holographic puzzle game on his datapad. The little mouse-like alien had become Amy's first non-human friend, and Rebecca was grateful someone was keeping her daughter occupied. The walk to the council chambers felt like walking to her own execution. Guards lined the hallways, all wearing the crimson Imperium colors. That wasn't normal. Rebecca's hands started shaking. The chamber doors opened, and she stopped breathing. The room was packed. Every council member was present, along with dozens of other dignitaries she didn't recognize. Chancellor Dravos stood at the center platform, wearing ceremonial armor covered in medals and honors. His guards surrounded him in perfect formation. This was bad. Really, really bad. Ambassador Rebecca Howard, Council Speaker North announced. The ancient tree-like being's voice echoed through the chamber. "Please approach." Rebecca walked forward on unsteady legs. She prepared a speech, apologies and explanations ready, but her mind went blank as she reached the platform. "Ambassador," Dravos began, and his voice was surprisingly gentle. "I have called this assembly to address a matter of grave importance to the Crimson Imperium." Here it comes, Rebecca thought. Banishment. Va. The end of human expansion into this sector. After careful consideration and consultation with my advisors, Dravos continued, I am invoking an ancient right of the Imperium, one that has not been used for over 3,000 years. He gestured, and two guards stepped forward carrying a crystalline case. Inside was a medallion made of red metal, inscribed with symbols Rebecca couldn't read. "This is the seal of protection," Dravos explained. "It represents the highest honor my people can bestow. It means the bearer is considered part of the imperial family itself. Any harm against them is harm against the Imperium. Any threat to them is a declaration of war against all our worlds." Rebecca's confusion must have shown on her face. "I am granting this protection to your daughter, Amy Howard, and to her honored companion, the warrior Badger." The chamber erupted. Aliens jumped to their feet, shouting in dozens of languages. Council Speaker North had to activate the sound dampeners to restore order. "Chancellor," North said carefully, "this is unprecedented. The seal has never been granted to an outsider. Why now? Why them?" Dravos turned to face the assembly. "Because we have learned something about humanity that we failed to understand before. We judge them by our standards, by our values. We assumed they were weak because they seek peace. We thought they were insignificant because they don't boast of their strength." He activated a holographic display showing Badger standing between Amy and himself, that moment frozen in time. "This creature is called a honey badger. It comes from Earth, humanity's home world. After my encounter with it, I ordered research into Earth's fauna. What I discovered has changed my understanding of humanity completely." More images appeared. Lions, bears, wolves, cobras, crocodiles. All of Earth's predators displayed in rotating holograms. "Earth is a death world," Dravos said bluntly. "Every continent produces apex predators. Every ecosystem is a battlefield. Humans didn't just survive this world. They thrived on it. And they did so not by becoming the strongest predators, but by befriending them." He pointed to an image of a dog, descended from wolves that once hunted humans. Now humanity's most loyal companions, bred for thousands of years to work alongside humans, protect human children, rescue humans in danger. Another image. Cats. Solitary hunters that chose to live with humans. Not forced. They chose, because humans offered them something better than survival alone. Horses. Birds. Reptiles. Each image showed creatures that could kill humans easily, but instead lived peacefully with them. "The honey badger with young Amy represents the pinnacle of this achievement," Dravos said. one of Earth's most fearless creatures, bonded to a vulnerable child, serving as her protector not through training or force, but through genuine loyalty. That creature would have died fighting me to protect her. I saw it in its eyes. Absolute commitment. He paused, letting his words sink in. Any species that can inspire that level of loyalty from apex survivors is not weak. They're the most dangerous kind of strong. The kind that doesn't need to threaten because their strength speaks for itself. Young Amy didn't order her companion to protect her. Didn't command it. The creature acted from love. Rebecca felt tears in her eyes. She'd never thought about Badger that way. He was just Amy's support animal, her friend who helped with anxiety attacks and nightmares. Furthermore, Dravos continued, humans are already forming these bonds beyond their species. Junior aide Pip reports that young Amy treats him with the same kindness she shows her animal companion. She doesn't see him as lesser. She sees him as a friend. Pip squeaked from somewhere in the observation area. This is what humanity offers the galaxy, Dravos concluded. Not conquest, not domination, partnership, real, genuine alliance. I grant protection to Amy Howard because I want humanity to know that the Crimson Imperium values this quality. We won't be their partners, not their enemies. He turned to Rebecca. Will you accept this honor on behalf of your daughter? Rebecca found her voice. Yes. Thank you, Chancellor. But I don't understand. Badger didn't attack you. He just stood there. Exactly, Dravos said with something that might have been a smile. He didn't need to attack. His presence was enough. That's the lesson. True strength doesn't need to prove itself. The medallion was presented to Rebecca in its crystal case. It was surprisingly heavy. There are conditions, Dravos added. This protection is absolute. Anyone who harms Amy or her companion will face the full military might of the Imperium. We will enforce this without exception. Understood, Rebecca whispered. News of the ceremony spread across the station within minutes. By the time Rebecca returned to their quarters, her message inbox was overflowing. Human command wanted explanations. Other species wanted meetings. Everyone wanted to understand what just happened. Amy looked up from her game when her mother entered. Did they cancel the treaty? Rebecca laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. No, sweetheart. They did something much stranger. They made you part of their royal family. That's weird, Amy said, then went back to her game. Badger yawned and rolled over, demanding more belly rubs. 3 weeks passed, and life on the station changed in strange ways. Amy noticed it first during breakfast at the communal cafeteria. Aliens who used to ignore humans now nodded respectfully. Some even offered her free treats from their stalls, which Amy thought was pretty cool until her mom explained they were trying to gain political favor. Can we keep the pastries, though? Amy asked. That blue one tasted like strawberries. Rebecca sighed. Just don't accept anything too expensive. Pip met them after breakfast, bouncing excitedly on his tiny feet. Amy, want to explore the market district today? There's a vendor selling singing crystals from my homeworld. Is that allowed? Amy asked, glancing at her mother. Rebecca hesitated. The market district was technically open to everyone, but it was rough, full of traders and smugglers who didn't always follow station rules. Before the protection decree, she would have said no immediately. I'll have guards watching her, a deep voice said. Captain Saldrus approached their table. She was tall for her species, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. She commanded the Imperium security detail assigned to protect Amy, though Amy barely noticed them most days. The Chancellor's orders are clear, Saldrus continued. Amy may go anywhere on the station. My team will maintain discreet surveillance. Rebecca didn't look happy but nodded. Stay with Pip. Keep Badger close. And if anything feels wrong, come straight home. I will, Mom. Promise. The market district was amazing. Stalls lined the wide corridors, selling everything imaginable. Glowing fruits that changed colors, tools that folded into impossible shapes, clothes made from living fabric that adjusted to fit anyone. Pip knew all the best vendors, dragging Amy from stall to stall while chattering about each item's history. Badger waddled between them, looking sleepy as always but keeping close to Amy's legs. They were examining the singing crystals, which really did make beautiful sounds when touched when someone stumbled into Amy from behind. The impact sent her sprawling onto the hard floor, her knee hitting the ground with a painful crack. Amy yelped in pain. Badger was there instantly, helping her sit up. The honey badger checked her over with his nose, making concerned huffing sounds. "Watch where you're going, brat," a rough voice snarled. Amy looked up. A massive alien loomed over her, easily 8 feet tall, with gray-green skin and thick arms covered in scars. He smelled terrible, like old garbage and something chemical that made Amy's eyes water. "I'm sorry," Amy said automatically, even though he'd been the one who bumped her. "I didn't mean your rat touched me," the alien growled, glaring at Badger. Disgusting creature. Badger had moved between Amy and the alien. He wasn't aggressive, just positioned carefully, watching the stranger with those dark, unblinking eyes. "He's not a rat," Amy said quietly. "He's a honey badger. And he didn't touch you. He was checking if I was hurt. Don't care what it is. Move it before I kick it across the corridor." The market went silent. Vendors stopped calling out their wares. Other customers backed away, clearing space. Some whispered urgently into communication devices. "Please don't threaten him," Amy said, her voice shaking. Her knee hurt, and this alien was scary, and she just wanted to go home. "We'll leave. Come on, Badger." The alien's foot swung forward, aiming at Badger. The kick never connected. Badger sidestepped smoothly, minimal movement, and suddenly he was directly in the alien's path. Still silent. Still calm. Just there. The alien stopped, confusion crossing his scarred face. "What?" Alarms blared throughout the market. Red lights flashed from every corner. Within seconds, armored guards poured in from 3 different entrances, moving with military precision. Captain Saldris led the charge, her 4 arms already reaching for weapons. "Freeze," she commanded. "Step away from a protected individual. Now." The alien looked around, suddenly aware of the dozen weapons pointed at him. "What? I didn't do anything. The kid bumped into me." "You threatened violence against an Imperium-protected individual," Saldris said coldly. "You attempted physical assault against her companion. These are capital offenses." "Capital?" The alien's eyes went wide. "For threatening a kid and her pet? You're insane." "The law is clear," Saldris replied. Guards moved in, restraining the alien despite his protests. "You're under arrest. You will be taken before a magistrate immediately." Amy watched in shock as they dragged the struggling alien away. Pip pressed close to her side, his tiny hands shaking. "Are you injured?" Saldris asked, kneeling down to Amy's level. Up close, she looked less scary and more concerned. "Just my knee," Amy said. "It's not bad." Saldris examined the scrape carefully. "We'll have medical personnel check you. Then we'll escort you home." "Is he really going to be executed?" Amy asked quietly. "He didn't actually hurt me. He just said mean things. He threatened you and attempted violence against your companion," Saldris said. "The Imperium's protection is absolute. We do not make empty promises." The trial happened within 2 hours. Amy wasn't allowed to attend, but Pip watched the public broadcast and told her everything. The alien, whose name was Grevik, tried to explain he was drunk, that he didn't know about the protection order, that it was all a misunderstanding. The magistrate was unmoved. 20 years of hard labor in the Crimson Mines. Grevik screamed that the punishment didn't fit the crime, that it was insane to destroy someone's life over threats against a child. "The law is the law," the magistrate stated. "Ignorance is not an excuse. The Imperium has announced the protection publicly. You chose not to pay attention." Video of the incident and trial spread across the station within hours. Captain Saldris gave an interview that played on every news channel. "Let me be completely clear," she said, looking directly into the camera. "The protection granted to Amy Howard and her companion Badger is not symbolic. It is not negotiable. It is law. Any being who threatens them, harms them, or shows them disrespect will face the full consequences. The Imperium does not bluff." That evening, Rebecca held Amy while she cried. "I didn't want him to go to prison," Amy sobbed. "He was just mean. People are mean sometimes. I know, sweetie, Rebecca said softly. But this is bigger than just one mean person. The Imperium is sending a message to the whole galaxy. What message? That they value you, that they value what you represent, and that they take their promises seriously. Pip visited later, bringing the singing crystal as a gift to cheer Amy up. Everyone's talking about it, he said quietly. All the species that ignored humans before are suddenly very interested in being friendly. They're scared. Of me? Amy asked, confused. Of what you represent, Pip replied. You're just a kid with your friend Badger. But you made the Imperium change how they see humanity. That's powerful. Amy looked down at Badger, who had curled up in her lap. He gazed back at her with those calm, dark eyes, then licked her hand gently. You're just a good boy, Amy whispered to him. That's all. Just my good, brave boy. Badger huffed softly and closed his eyes, content. Across the station, species that had barely acknowledged humanity's existence now rushed to update their diplomatic protocols. The word spread fast and far. Humans were not to be underestimated. Not when their children commanded such fierce protection, both from unlikely guardians and from the galaxy's most powerful empire. Dr. Sullen hadn't slept properly in weeks. Her laboratory was covered in data screens, each displaying information about Earth and its creatures. What started as curiosity had become an obsession. She needed to understand how humans had achieved what no other species had managed. Doctor, you should rest, her assistant said, bringing her another stimulant drink. Not yet, Sullen replied, her antennae twitching rapidly. Look at this. Just look. She pulled up a comparative chart showing domesticated species across the galaxy. Most civilizations had one or two animals they'd managed to control through selective breeding. Humans had hundreds, thousands if you counted all the regional variations. Dogs alone have over 300 distinct breeds, Sullen muttered, each one designed for specific purposes. Hunting, herding, protection, companionship. And they all descended from wolves that once hunted humans for food. She opened another file. Cats. Solitary ambush predators that humans convinced to live in their homes. They retain all their hunting instincts, can survive independently, yet choose to stay. Why? Her research had attracted attention from other xenobiologists. A conference call request came through from Dr. Wells, a human scientist stationed on one of the colony worlds. Dr. Sullen, Wells greeted warmly when the connection opened. I heard you've been studying our animal companions. I'd be happy to answer questions. How do you do it? Sullen asked immediately. How do humans form these bonds? Other species tried domesticating animals for millennia with limited success. Humans befriend apex predators like it's natural. Dr. Wells smiled. Because to us, it is natural. We don't see other animals as tools or resources first. We see them as individuals, partners. But that's inefficient, Sullen protested. My people tried bonding with our world's predators. They killed half the researchers before we gave up. Did you try to dominate them? Control them? Of course. How else would you? Sullen stopped. Oh, we don't dominate, Wells explained. We cooperate. Dogs help us hunt. We share the food. Cats kill rodents in our grain stores. We provide them shelter. Horses carry us long distances. We protect them from predators. It's mutual benefit, not slavery. Sullen pulled up more data. But honey badgers? They're listed as one of the most aggressive animals on Earth. How did you befriend them? With patience and respect, Wells said simply. Honey badgers are aggressive when threatened, but incredibly loyal when bonded. Amy's badger was rescued as an orphan, raised with gentleness, and he chose to stay with her. We didn't break his spirit. We earned his trust. The concept was foreign to Sullen's people, who valued hierarchy and control. Your military must be terrifying if your children's pets are this formidable. Wells laughed. We don't weaponize our animals. That would violate the bond. They're family, not soldiers. But you could weaponize them, Sullen pressed. I've run the simulations. Enhanced honey badgers deployed as military units would be devastating. We could, Wells agreed, but we won't. The moment we treat them as weapons, we lose what makes the relationship special. Trust, love, loyalty, freely given. After the call ended, Sullen sat in silence, processing this information. She pulled up reports from human colony worlds. The data was disturbing in its implications that on New Terra, humans had already befriended several native species that the original inhabitants avoided. A six-legged predator called a striped hunter now helped human ranchers protect livestock from other predators. The partnership was only 3 years old, but already successful. On Kepler colony, humans had domesticated flying creatures that the native bird-like species considered too dangerous to approach. Now the humans used them for aerial surveys and crop monitoring. The pattern repeated across every human settlement. They arrived on new worlds and immediately started forming relationships with the local fauna. Not through conquest, through partnership. General Karvik visited her laboratory that afternoon, looking grim. The military council wants your assessment. Are humans building an army? No, Sullen said. That's what makes them dangerous. They're not building an army. They're making friends, genuine friends, with creatures from every world they encounter. She showed him the data. Look at this. Human colony ships carry breeding pairs of Earth animals. Dogs, cats, horses, chickens, cattle. They spread their animal partnerships wherever they go. And then they befriend local species too. So what's the threat? Karvik demanded. Imagine a conflict with humanity 50 years from now, Sullen said quietly. They'll have partnerships with creatures from dozens of worlds. Animals we can't predict, don't understand, can't prepare for. Not because they weaponize them, but because they earned genuine loyalty. She pulled up tactical simulations. A human soldier with a dog is 40% more effective than one alone. The dog isn't just obeying orders. It's protecting someone it loves. That's a different kind of motivation. Add in the other animals they partner with, and every human becomes the center of a support network. Karvik studied the data, his expression darkening. What do you recommend? Alliance, Sullen said immediately. Strong, genuine alliance. Because if humans can befriend honey badgers and make them gentle with children, imagine what they could do with species like ours. They don't need to conquer us. They could just make us want to help them. Chancellor Dravos called an emergency council meeting that evening. Representatives from 47 species attended, all requesting information about the human situation. Dr. Sullen presented her findings. The room grew quieter with each new piece of evidence. Videos of humans with their animals. Data showing the spread of human-animal partnerships across colony worlds. Psychological profiles explaining the human capacity for cross-species bonding. They're not just survivors, Sullen concluded. They're connectors. They look at the universe and see potential friends, not potential threats. That's their real power. A representative from the Bone Cartel Syndicate spoke up. You're saying we should fear them because they're friendly? That's absurd. You should respect them, Dravos corrected. There's a difference. I feared the honey badger because I saw absolute commitment in its eyes. But I respect humanity because they inspired that commitment through kindness, not force. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to limit human expansion. Others wanted to restrict what animals humans could transport between worlds. A few suggested outright containment. Dravos vetoed every restriction. We will not punish humans for possessing a quality we should admire. Instead, we will offer partnership. Real partnership like they offer their animals. Mutual benefit. Mutual respect. And if they refuse, someone asked. They won't, Dravos said with certainty. Because that's who they are. They make friends, even with species that threaten their children. Council Speaker North, who had remained silent throughout the debate, finally spoke. I have studied Earth's history extensively. Humans didn't just befriend dangerous animals. They befriended each other. Tribes that warred for thousands of years eventually formed nations. Nations that slaughtered each other formed alliances. They apply the same principle to everything. Former enemies can become family. She let that sink in. The question before this council is simple, North continued. Do we fear what humans might become? Or do we become what they already see us as, potential friends? The vote took place at midnight. 41 species voted for expanded human partnership agreements. 6 abstained. None voted for containment. Amy knew nothing about the political changes her existence had triggered. She was too busy teaching Pip how to play a human card game while Badger snoozed nearby. The galaxy was changing its understanding of humanity, but to Amy, nothing had changed at all. Badger was still her best friend, and that was all that mattered. 1 year had passed since the incident that changed everything. Rebecca stood in their quarters, helping Amy get ready for her 9th birthday party. The station had transformed in that time. Humans now held 3 council seats, up from 1. Trade agreements had multiplied. Human colonies were being established in sectors previously closed to them, all because of a honey badger and an 8-year-old girl. "Do I have to wear the fancy dress?" Amy complained, tugging at the blue fabric. "It's a diplomatic event," Rebecca said, adjusting the collar. "Half the galaxy's representatives are coming to your birthday party. Yes, you have to look nice." "It's weird that aliens want to come to my birthday," Amy muttered. "Pip, I get. He's my friend. But all these important people." Rebecca knelt down to Amy's level. "They're coming because you showed them something important about humanity, about kindness and partnership." "I just had Badger with me," Amy said, glancing at the honey badger. He was wearing a small bow tie that Pip had insisted on, looking mildly annoyed but tolerant. The party was held in the station's grand hall, decorated with streamers and lights from a dozen different cultures. Human children played with alien younglings, their parents watching nervously at first, but relaxing as they saw everyone getting along. Chancellor Dravos arrived with a delegation of Imperium officials, carrying gifts wrapped in red and gold. He approached Amy with a formal bow that made her giggle. "Happy birthday, young Amy," he said warmly. "You have caused quite the disruption to galactic politics." "I am sorry," Amy offered uncertainly. "Don't be. It was the good kind of disruption." He presented her with a crystal tablet. "This contains honorary citizenship in the Crimson Imperium. You and your companion Badger are officially recognized as members of our extended family." "That's really nice," Amy said. "Thank you." Dr. Sullen arrived next, her antennae decorated with tiny ribbons. "I brought you something special," she said, presenting a holographic display. "These are recordings of animals from my home world. I thought you might like to see them." Amy's eyes lit up as alien creatures appeared in the projection. Bird-like beings with iridescent feathers, small furry mammals that glowed in the dark, reptilian swimmers with graceful fins. "They're beautiful," Amy breathed. "Do any of them make good pets?" Dr. Sullen laughed. "I'm researching that, actually. Your people have inspired us to reconsider our relationship with our world's fauna. We're learning from your methods." More guests arrived throughout the afternoon. Representatives from species Amy had never heard of, all bringing gifts and good wishes. Pip helped her keep track of everyone, whispering names and titles when needed. But the most surprising guest arrived near the end of the party. Grevik, the alien who had threatened Badger in a market, walked in escorted by guards. He looked different, cleaner, less aggressive. His eyes found Amy, and he approached slowly, carefully. "I asked permission to attend," he said quietly. "I wanted to apologize properly. What I did was wrong, not just because of the law, but because I was cruel to a child and her companion who meant me no harm." Amy remembered being scared, remembered Badger standing protectively in front of her. But she also remembered her mother's lessons about forgiveness and second chances. "Are you out of prison?" she asked. "My sentence was reduced," Grevik explained. "Chancellor Dravos offered me an alternative. Work with human Imperium cooperation programs, learn about Earth animals, help other species understand what I failed to understand." I accepted. He held out a small carved figure. A honey badger, made from dark wood, incredibly detailed. "I made this during my time in the mines, to remind myself of the lesson I learned." Amy took the carving carefully. It was beautiful. "What lesson?" "That strength isn't about size or aggression," Grevik said. "It's about loyalty and courage. Your badger taught me that. He was ready to fight me, ready to die protecting you, but he never needed to show off about it. He just stood there, calm and certain. That's real strength." Badger, hearing his name, waddled over and sniffed Grevik's hand. The big alien froze, barely breathing, as the honey badger investigated him. Then Badger huffed softly and sat down, apparently deciding Grevik was acceptable. He forgives easier than I do, Amy said with a small smile. Okay, apology accepted. Later, as the party wound down, Rebecca found herself talking with Council Speaker North. The ancient being had observed everything with her multiple eyes, saying little but missing nothing. Your species has changed the galaxy, North said, in just 1 year. That's remarkable. We didn't mean to, Rebecca replied. Amy was just being Amy. Badger was just being Badger. Exactly, North agreed. You didn't try to impress us or intimidate us. You were simply yourselves. Genuine, kind, loyal to each other. That authenticity is what won over even the most skeptical species. She gestured to the party, where children of multiple species played together under the watchful eyes of their parents. Look at them, learning from each other, forming friendships. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not technology or military might, but the simple ability to see others as friends instead of threats. Rebecca watched Amy teaching a group of alien children how to play a clapping game. Badger sat nearby, tolerating gentle pats from younglings who had been taught to be respectful. We just hope we can live up to the reputation, Rebecca said softly. You already have, North replied. Every day, with every interaction. You don't need to conquer the galaxy, Rebecca. You're already changing it, one friendship at a time. That evening, after all the guests had left and Amy was getting ready for bed, she sat with Badger on her lap. The honey badger was tired from all the attention, his eyes drooping as Amy stroked his fur. Pip says you're famous, Amy told him. That everyone in the galaxy knows about you now. The silent guardian, the fierce protector. Badger yawned, showing his impressive teeth, then settled more comfortably against her. But you're just Badger, Amy continued. My friend who helps when I'm scared, who stays with me when I have bad dreams, who makes me feel safe. She kissed the top of his head. Thank you for protecting me. Always. Badger made a soft, rumbling sound, his version of contentment, and closed his eyes. Across the galaxy, on dozens of worlds, species were reassessing their understanding of humanity. Research programs studied human-animal bonds. Diplomatic corps rewrote their protocols. Military strategists developed new models that accounted for humanity's unique approach to alliance building. But in one quiet room on a space station, none of that mattered. A girl and her honey badger were simply together, comfortable and safe, the way they'd always been. The galaxy could debate humanity's potential and fear their capabilities. Amy and Badger just knew they were friends. And in the end, that simple truth had proven more powerful than any weapon, more influential than any political maneuvering. Humanity had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten or never known, that the fiercest loyalty comes not from domination, but from love. That true strength doesn't need to roar or threaten. It can be silent, patient, and gentle, until something threatens what it protects. Then it becomes unstoppable. The Imperium declared Amy untouchable because of one silent honey badger. But the Real Declaration was much bigger. Humanity itself had been recognized for what it truly was, a species that could befriend the unfriendable, protect the vulnerable, and turn potential enemies into family. And that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because of what they could destroy, but because of what they could create. Bonds that transcended species, loyalty that defied logic, and friendships that could reshape the political landscape of entire civilizations. All because a little girl loved her honey badger, and he loved her back. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how it should be.